The sky above the alien world burned with strange colors. Shades of violet and green twisted like rivers of fire. Captain Aaron watched from the window of his small landing craft, his hands tight on the controls. The ship shook as it entered the planet's atmosphere. The engine screamed and warning lights flashed red. But Aaron's face stayed calm. He had faced storms before, but never on a world so unknown. The planet's name was Saria, long ago. Explorers had called it the Shrouded Kingdom. Stories said a powerful princess ruled here, a princess who never showed her face. Some said she wore a mask of silver. Others whispered she was cursed. Many travelers had come to see her, but few had ever returned. Aaron knew the risks. But he had chosen this mission with his own will. He wanted to see the truth hidden behind the veil of this world. The landing craft touched down in a wide valley filled with glowing plants. Their light cast long shadows across the rocks. Aaron stepped out, his boots sinking into the soft, shining moss. The air smelled sweet, but there was a weight in it, as if the world itself was watching him. He scanned the horizon. Tall towers rose in the distance, their tops glowing like moons. This was the capital city, the heart of Saria, the place where the hidden princess waited. Aaron's communicator buzzed. A voice spoke, soft and strange. "Welcome, human traveler. You are expected. Follow the lights." Golden orbs floated in the air, forming a path that led toward the towers. Aaron frowned. They already knew he was here. They were waiting for him as he walked. The forest around him whispered. The plants shifted as if alive, their petals turning to face him. He felt eyes on his back. But when he turned, the path was empty. Still, he kept walking. The lights guided him through the valley until the walls of the city rose high before him. The gates opened without a sound, as if the city itself breathed him inside. The streets were filled with alien figures. Tall and slender, their skin shining like polished stone. They did not smile, they did not speak, they only bowed their heads as he passed. Aaron felt the weight of silence pressing against him. It was not the silence of peace, it was the silence of fear. At the center of the city stood the Great Hall, its walls covered in silver patterns that seemed to move like water. Aaron's heart beat faster. He knew he was close. Two guards with glowing eyes crossed their spears before the door. "Captain Aaron," one said, "the princess will see you." The doors opened, and a wave of cold air rolled out. Aaron stepped inside. The hall was vast and dark. Pillars of crystal rose like frozen lightning. At the far end, on a throne of shadow and light, sat the princess. Her face was hidden behind a silver mask, her body wrapped in dark robes. She did not move, she only watched him. Aaron felt her gaze pierce through the mask. He stood tall, though his chest tightened. This was the moment many had feared. This was the woman of the legends. The silence stretched. Then a voice filled the hall, not loud but heavy. "You are the first human to enter my court in many years," she said. Her tone was not cruel but cold. Aaron bowed his head slightly. "I come in peace, Your Highness." "I only seek truth," the court whispered, alien voices like rustling leaves. The princess lifted one hand and the whispers died. "You know the stories," she said. "You know why I hide my face." Aaron met her hidden eyes without fear. "Yes, I know the stories, but I do not believe stories. I believe only in what I see." A hush fell over the hall. The princess leaned back, her mask catching the light. "Then perhaps," she whispered, "you will see more than you wish." The torches dimmed. The walls seemed to close in. Aaron felt a chill run down his spine. But he did not step back. Instead, he stood firm. He had faced darkness before, and he would face this mystery too. The princess's masked face tilted as if studying him. "Human," she said, her voice softer now. "Your courage is strange. But courage can be foolish. Do you truly wish to walk this path?" Aaron's lips curved in the smallest smile. "Yes," he answered. "I came here to walk it to the end." The hall fell silent again. The princess lowered her hand, and shadows deepened around the throne. The air grew heavy. The bond between human and hidden ruler had begun, but no one yet knew whether it would lead to hope or to ruin. The great doors closed behind Aaron with a deep echo. The air of the throne hall was heavy, as if the walls themselves listened. The princess sat still on her throne, her silver mask shining faintly in the torchlight. No one dared to look at her for too long, not even the guards. The people of Saria believed her hidden face carried danger, and so they kept their eyes lowered. But Aaron was not like them. He felt curiosity instead of fear. and that curiosity pulled him closer to her secret. The princess raised one hand and the whispers in the court silenced. Her voice rang out, calm but sharp. Human traveler, you enter my world with courage, but courage alone is not enough. Do you know what it means to stand here before me? Aaron bowed his head, though his eyes stayed steady. I know it means risk, but I also know it means truth. The words echoed. And for the first time, the princess tilted her head slightly, as if measuring him from the side of the hall. An elder stepped forward, his robes dragging across the floor. He carried a staff of black stone, glowing faintly with symbols. He looked at Aaron with tired eyes. Your Highness, the elder said, he is human, he does not know our laws. Shall we test him before he comes closer? The princess lowered her hand. Yes, let him be tested if his heart is weak. He will break. If it is strong, he may walk another step. The elder tapped his staff against the floor. The sound was like thunder. The guards moved, and Aaron found himself surrounded by figures in silver armor. One of them placed a chain of light across the floor, forming a circle around him. The elder's voice echoed. Traveler, you must face the trial of truth. You must stand within the circle. You must answer without lies. Your heart will be weighed, and if it is false, the circle will consume you. Aaron breathed slowly. His heart pounded, but he stepped into the circle without hesitation. The light rose like fire around him. Humming with strange energy, the elder's eyes narrowed. Why have you come to Syria, human? Aaron lifted his head. I came for truth. Not treasure, not power. I want to see what others fear to see. The circle burned brighter. But it did not break, the elder asked again. Do you seek the princess's face? Aaron hesitated only for a breath. Yes, I do, but not for greed. Not for conquest. I want to understand her. Not own her. The circle glowed even stronger. As if feeding on his words, the court gasped, some whispering in fear, others in disbelief. The princess leaned forward slightly. Her voice was softer now, but it carried across the hall. Why would a human care for what he does not know? Why would he risk himself for something hidden? Aaron's answer came like steady stone. Because hidden things hold truth, and truth is worth the risk. The circle shone brighter than before, then slowly sank into the floor. Leaving only silence, the elder lowered his head. The circle accepts him, he said. The court murmured, voices rising in waves of confusion. No outsider had ever passed the trial of truth before. Some called it a sign, others whispered of danger. The princess lifted her hand again, and the voices died at once. Come forward, she commanded. Aaron walked slowly down the long path of crystal toward her throne. Every step echoed like thunder. The guards shifted uneasily, their hands tight on their spears, but the princess did not move. Her silver mask gleamed in the torchlight, hiding whatever lay beneath. When Aaron finally stopped at the foot of her throne, he looked up at her. For a moment, the world felt silent, as if holding its breath. The princess's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. You are bold, human. Others fear my face, but you stand here unshaken. Why? Aaron's reply was simple. Because I believe a mask is only a mask. What matters is the soul behind it. The hall trembled with a ripple of whispers. The princess raised her hand, and once again the voices vanished. But beneath her mask, her hidden eyes narrowed. No one had ever spoken to her like this, not even her own people. She rose slowly from her throne, her robes flowing like water. Her presence filled the hall with a weight that pressed against Aaron's chest. Still he did not step back. She descended the steps, her masked face drawing closer. When she stopped only a breath away, the hall froze. Everyone waited, fearful of what she might do. The princess lifted her hand and hovered her fingers just above Aaron's shoulder. Her voice was sharp but quiet. Be careful, human. Curiosity is dangerous in this court. Even a whisper can become a curse. Then, without warning, she turned away, her robes sweeping across the floor. Leave him for now, she commanded. The guards stepped back, lowering their weapons. The princess returned to her throne, her mask gleaming once more. Aaron stood in the center of the hall. He had faced her trial, and he had not broken. But he knew this was only the beginning. The princess had allowed him to live. Yes, but she had also marked him. And in the silence that followed, Aaron realized he had stepped into a game far greater than he could imagine. The next morning, the city of Syria stirred with whispers. Word of the human who had passed the trial of truth spread like fire. Many called it impossible. Others feared it was a sign of change. Some even claimed the princess herself had chosen him already, but no one truly understood why he was still alive. In the market, alien voices muttered his name. In the palace, nobles argued in secret chambers, and in the throne hall the princess sat silent, her mask reflecting the firelight. Aaron walked through the palace corridors, his boots echoing against the crystal floors. He felt eyes on him at every turn, servants peeking from doorways, guards tightening their grips on weapons, but no one dared to stop him. 2 armored guards finally appeared at the end of the hall. Their silver spears crossed. "The princess calls for you," one said. His voice flat, Aaron nodded and followed. They led him through a tall doorway carved with strange glowing symbols. The air grew heavy, filled with a low hum. Beyond the door was not another hall, it was a chamber unlike anything Aaron had seen. The floor was a circle of black stone, etched with lines that burned with light. At the far side, the princess stood, her silver mask gleaming in the dark. Her voice carried across the chamber. "You have passed the trial of truth. Human, but truth is only the first step. Now you must prove your courage." Aaron's heart beat faster, but he held her gaze. "I am ready," he said simply. The princess lifted her hand, and the black stone under Aaron's feet shifted. The circle widened and the floor dropped away, leaving only a narrow bridge across a pit of fire. Flames roared below, the heat striking his face. The guards at the edges lowered their heads. Unwilling to watch, the princess's voice rang out again. "This is the trial of courage. You must cross to me. No shield, no armor. Only your will." Aaron looked down at the fire. Then back at her mask, he knew the bridge was more than stone. It was a test of fear, a trap for weakness, and if he slipped, there would be no second chance. He placed one foot on the narrow path, the stone shaking under his weight. The fire hissed below, hungry and alive. He moved slowly, each step echoing across the chamber. Halfway across, the stone rippled as if it were water. Aaron's balance faltered, and for a heartbeat he leaned toward the flames. But he gritted his teeth and forced himself forward. The princess watched in silence, her hands folded before her. Suddenly, the fire shifted, and out of the smoke rose a figure. It was tall and twisted, a beast of flame with eyes like burning coal. It blocked the path, roaring. The heat pressed against Aaron's skin, his throat dry. The princess's voice was calm but sharp. "Face your fear, human. If you fight, you may fall. If you turn back, you will be cast out. Choose." Aaron stood his ground, sweat pouring down his face. The beast snarled, flames licking at the air. For a moment, he felt the fire swallow his courage. But then he remembered why he had come, not for glory, not for riches, but for truth. He took a slow step forward, staring into the beast's burning eyes. "I will not turn away," he said. His voice steady, the beast roared louder, the flames flaring, but Aaron walked forward anyway. Step by step, each move was agony, the heat tearing at his skin. Yet he did not stop at last. He reached the center of the bridge, standing face to face with the creature. The flames surged, the beast raising its arm of fire. Aaron lifted his own hand, not to strike, but to hold it steady. "I am not afraid," he whispered. The flames wavered. The beast froze, its body flickering like smoke in the wind. Then with a great scream, it collapsed into ash, vanishing into the pit below. Silence filled the chamber. Aaron's chest heaved, his clothes scorched, but his eyes burned with determination. He walked the last steps across the bridge until he stood before the princess. The fire below dimmed, leaving only glowing embers. The princess lowered her head slightly, her mask shining. "You have faced the trial of courage, and you did not break," she said. Aaron met her gaze. "I do not fear fire, nor shadows, nor death. I fear only lies." Her masked face tilted, as if hiding a secret thought. The chamber doors opened behind him, and the guards stepped forward. Bowing their heads low, the princess raised her hand. "Let it be known," she declared, her voice ringing across the chamber. "The human has passed the trial of courage." The guards struck their spears against the floor, a deep thunder rolling through the walls. But the nobles in the shadows whispered again, fear in their voices. No outsider had ever passed both trials. If he passed one more, he would stand where no other had dared. The princess turned back to her throne, her robe trailing behind her. "Leave us," she said to the guards, "but remember his name, for his path is far from over." Aaron stood alone in the chamber, his heart still pounding from the flames. He knew the trials were not only tests, they were steps toward something greater. And though he had survived the fire, He felt the weight of her secret pressing closer. The mask still hid her truth, but with each trial, he knew he was walking closer to it. Night fell over the city of Seria. The towers glowed like frozen moons, their silver light casting long shadows across the empty streets. Aaron walked alone through the palace gardens. The air cool but heavy. Everywhere he went, he felt eyes on him, watching, measuring, judging. Though he had passed the trials, the people did not welcome him. To them, he was still an outsider. And worse, an outsider who dared to stand close to their princess. At the edge of the garden stood an elder, the same who had led the trial of truth. His face was marked with deep lines, his eyes dim but sharp. When Aaron approached, the elder did not bow. Instead, he leaned on his staff and spoke in a low voice. "You walk a dangerous path, human. You do not understand the weight of our princess's mask." Aaron stopped, his voice calm but steady. "Then explain it. Why do your people fear her face?" The elder's eyes shifted to the glowing towers. He whispered as if even the walls might hear. "Long ago, our kingdom was torn by war. Our enemies unleashed a weapon that scarred not only the land but also the princess herself. When she returned from battle, she carried both victory and a curse. Those who saw her true face fell into madness. Some screamed until they died. Others turned their blades on themselves." Aaron frowned. "Madness? Because of scars? That cannot be." The elder shook his head, his voice trembling. "You think it is only scars? No, it is something more. Her face carries the shadow of the weapon. A mark not meant for mortal eyes." Aaron looked out at the garden, the alien flowers glowing faintly in the night. He thought of the fire beast he had faced, the trials designed not to test skill but the soul. And now this whisper of a curse, it was all meant to break fear into him. Yet his resolve did not shake. "If her face is a curse," he said, "then why let her live among you as ruler?" The elder's eyes hardened. "Because she is still our blood, still our shield and still our queen-to-be. We love her, but we fear her, so we bow to the mask." The elder leaned closer, his voice like a hiss of wind. "Do not seek what is hidden, human. No one has survived her unveiled gaze. Not kings, not warriors, not lovers. If you try, your fate will be the same." Aaron met the elder's eyes without flinching. Maybe they looked with fear, maybe they wanted power, but I do not. "I want only truth." The elder shook his head slowly. "Truth can kill, and you may learn too late." Before Aaron could answer, the sound of soft steps filled the air. From the shadows of the garden, the princess appeared, her robes brushing against the glowing grass. The elder bowed low, his voice shaking. "Your Highness." But she did not look at him, her mask turned instead toward Aaron. "Walk with me," she commanded, her voice soft but heavy. Aaron followed as she moved through the silver-lit paths. The garden stretched wide, filled with silent statues of kings and queens. Each stone face looked stern, almost sorrowful. The princess's mask glimmered in the light as she spoke. "Do you know what my people call me, human?" Aaron shook his head. "They call me the veiled curse. To them, my face is not beauty but doom. They bow not out of love, but fear." Her voice wavered for a heartbeat, quickly hidden behind her calm tone. Aaron studied her closely. "Do you believe them?" he asked. The princess stopped walking, her silver mask turning toward a statue broken in half. "I believe only in what I have seen, and I have seen men fall to their knees, screaming at the sight of me. I have seen warriors claw out their eyes to escape the vision. Silence hung between them, broken only by the wind rustling through the glowing leaves." Aaron's voice was steady. "And yet here you stand, not as a monster, but as a ruler. You lead despite fear. That does not sound like a curse. It sounds like strength." The princess tilted her head, her mask hiding her reaction. "You speak as though you see past the veil," she whispered. Aaron met her hidden gaze. "Because I do, mask or no mask, curse or no curse. You are still you." Her hands tightened at her sides, her robes trembling faintly. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she turned sharply away. "Careful, human. Words like yours can break kingdoms if you wish to live. Do not speak them aloud." She moved back into the shadows, her figure fading into the dark. Aaron stood alone in the garden, the statues watching silently. The elder's warning echoed in his mind, but so did the princess's trembling voice. Was her face truly cursed? Or was it simply a wound her people refused to accept? Whatever the answer, Aaron knew one thing: he would not stop until he found the truth. The palace bells rang at dawn, their sound rolling across the city like waves of thunder. Aaron stood at the balcony of his chamber. Staring at the rising light, he had slept little, his mind heavy with the elders' whispers, the warnings of curses, the trembling voice of the princess. Yet no fear had taken root in him, only a deeper resolve. He had come to Saria not to turn back, but to walk until the very end. When the bells silenced, guards in silver armor entered his room. Their faces were hidden by polished helms, their movements sharp and cold. One spoke in a voice like stone. "The princess calls you to the hall of bonding. You will follow." Aaron nodded, his jaw set, and walked between them as they led him through the glowing halls. The hall of bonding was unlike the throne chamber or the garden. It was circular, vast, its walls carved with endless symbols that glowed in pale light. At the center was a great pool of silver water, its surface perfectly still. Around it stood nobles and priests, their robes long, their eyes filled with suspicion. The princess sat upon a smaller throne at the far end, her mask gleaming as always. Her voice carried through the chamber, low and steady. "Today the ritual of bonding is prepared. One may step forward, one may offer their soul. Only the chosen may stand by me." A priest stepped forward, his staff glowing faintly. He spoke so all could hear. "The bond is no simple vow. It is a link of mind, of heart, of fate. The one who bonds with the princess will share her strength but also her pain. If she falls, he falls. If he betrays, he burns." The chamber grew colder with his words, the nobles shifting uneasily. Many suitors had stood here before, but most had turned away. None had dared to step forward after hearing the cost. The priest's eyes turned to the crowd. "Who among you dares the bond?" he asked, his voice ringing for a long silence. No one moved then. Without hesitation, Aaron stepped forward. Gasps filled the chamber. Nobles whispering in shock, priests stiffening with fear. A human, an outsider, daring to claim the bond, but Aaron's steps did not falter. He stopped at the edge of the silver pool and lifted his head toward the princess. "I will stand," he said simply. The princess's mask tilted, her voice slow, careful. "You know the price, human. You know the whispers of my curse, and yet you step forward?" Aaron's voice was firm. "Yes, I know, and still I choose. Not because of power, not because of crown, but because no one should bear such weight alone." The court erupted with murmurs, some angry, some fearful. The princess raised her hand, and silence fell again. She rose from her throne, her robes sweeping like shadows. Her steps echoed as she walked to the pool, standing across from Aaron. For a moment she only stared at him, her mask hiding all expression. Then she spoke, her voice quiet but sharp. "Very well, if you wish to share my fate. You will face the bond." She lifted her hand and the silver pool began to glow. Light rising from its surface like mist, the priests began to chant, their voices weaving like threads of thunder. Symbols on the walls blazed brighter, the chamber trembling, the pool rippled, and beams of silver light stretched toward both Aaron and the princess. Aaron felt the pull in his chest, a force that reached into his very heart. It was not painful, but it was heavy, like chains made of fire and air. The princess lifted her hand and placed it over the water. Aaron did the same, their hands hovering above the glowing surface. The priest's voice rang louder. "Two souls, one path. If you accept, you are bound forever." The light surged upward. Wrapping around them both, Aaron felt his mind brush against hers, a presence sharp yet fragile. Cold yet burning, he glimpsed pain, loneliness, years of silence behind the mask, but also strength, fierce and unyielding. For a heartbeat, he thought she trembled, as if afraid of what he might see, but he did not turn away. The priest cried out the final words, and the pool erupted in light. Energy surged through Aaron, searing and powerful. He gasped but did not pull back. The princess's hand shook above the water, but she too held steady. When the light faded, the pool returned to stillness. The chamber fell silent, the air thick with awe. The princess lowered her hand slowly, her masked face turned toward Aaron. Her voice was soft, almost uncertain. "The bond is complete, human. You are no longer only yourself. You are tied to me." Aaron nodded, breathing hard but steady. "And I do not regret it," he said. The nobles gasped again, but this time no one spoke. The priest lowered his staff, bowing deeply. "The bond is sealed," he whispered. The princess stepped back, her robes brushing the silver water. Her mask hid her face. but her silence carried weight inside her. She could feel his presence now, warm, steady, unshaken, for the first time in years. She was not alone behind the veil, but in that same silence fear lingered, because if the curse was real, then Aaron had just chained himself to doom. The hall of bonding had emptied, but the weight of what happened lingered. The priests had left with pale faces. The nobles had whispered in fear as they departed. Even the guards seemed uneasy, glancing at Aaron as though he carried a shadow. But Aaron stood tall, his breath steady, the silver light of the bond still burning faintly in his chest. He felt her presence inside him now, faint but undeniable, a quiet pulse that matched his own heartbeat. The princess remained near the silver pool, her masked face turned away. Her robes shimmered faintly in the glow, yet her body seemed tense. For a long moment neither spoke. The silence heavy as stone. At last her voice broke through. Soft but sharp. "You are a fool, human. You should never have accepted the bond." Aaron's reply came calm and firm. "I accepted it because I chose it. Not from fear, not from lies, but because no one should carry such a burden alone." The princess's hand trembled at her side, hidden by her robes. "You speak as though you know me, but you do not. You do not know what I hide." Aaron stepped closer, his voice low but steady. "Then show me. Let me see what you fear so much." She froze, her mask gleaming in the silver light. No one had ever spoken those words to her so directly, not even her own people. For years she had lived behind silence, behind whispers, behind fear, but now, bound by the bond, she could not escape his steady presence pressing against her heart. Finally, she turned away and moved toward a narrow passage. "Follow," she commanded, her voice strained. Aaron walked behind her, through winding halls of dark crystal, deeper into the palace than he had ever gone. The air grew colder, the light dimmer, until they reached a chamber hidden from all eyes. The walls were carved with broken symbols, shattered and unfinished. At the center stood a single mirror, its surface cracked, covered with cloth. The princess stopped before it, her masked face reflected faintly in the broken glass. "This is where I hide the truth," she said, her voice trembling, her hand lifted to her mask. But it shook before it touched. "I cannot. I should not," she whispered. Aaron stepped closer, his voice calm. "You fear it? But I do not, whatever scar, whatever curse. It does not change who you are," her head bowed, her voice heavy with years of silence. "You say this now, but when you see, you will break like the others." She lifted her hand again, slower this time, her fingers brushing the mask. The air grew still, the chamber holding its breath. For the first time since Aaron arrived, he saw hesitation behind the steel mask of the princess. At last, she gripped the edges of the silver veil and began to lift. Aaron's chest tightened, his heart pounding, the mask slid upward, and a faint glow spilled from beneath it, not of beauty but of raw, painful light. Her face emerged, scarred by fire and shadow, one side marked with deep burns that glowed faintly with energy. Her eye on that side flickered with unnatural light, a reminder of the weapon that had scarred her. She lowered the mask completely, standing bare before him. The chamber itself seemed to shiver, the cracked mirror trembling. Her voice was quiet, broken. "This is my curse. This is why they fear me. This is why they bow, not out of love, but out of terror." Aaron looked at her scars, his breath steady, but he did not recoil. He did not turn away. Instead, he stepped closer, his voice firm. "No, this is not a curse. These are the marks of survival. They feared what they could not understand. But I do not fear you." The princess's eyes widened, her glowing, scarred eye flickering. "You do not scream. You do not turn away," she whispered. Aaron shook his head. "I see you. Not the scars, not the mask, only you." For the first time, her body trembled, not with anger, but with something else. Uncertainty. Tears welled faintly in her unscarred eye, but she quickly turned her face away. "You should not say such things. You will bring ruin upon yourself." Aaron's voice was steady. "If ruin comes, then I will face it. But I will not call you cursed." Never. Silence filled the chamber. Heavy yet fragile, the princess stood frozen, her mask still in her hand, her scarred face bare before him. In that moment, she realized the bond had already begun to change something. For the first time in years, someone looked at her without fear. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not as a weapon, not as a curse, but as herself. She replaced the mask slowly, hiding her scars once more. But her voice was different when she spoke. Softer, more fragile. "You may stay, human. For now," Aaron nodded. His own heart steady, he had seen the truth, and it had not broken him. If anything, it had only made his resolve stronger. The curse was not in her face, it was in the fear of others, and Aaron had no fear left to give. The princess's mask was back in place, but the moment could not be undone. Aaron had seen her face, the scars of war, the light that burned where flesh had been torn. He had seen what her people feared, and yet he had not turned away. That truth now lived between them, bound by the silver thread of the bond still. The chamber was heavy with silence, the cracked mirror trembling as if it remembered her pain. The princess moved first, stepping back into shadow. "You should never have asked to see, human," she said. Her voice cold again, but not steady. Aaron stood his ground, his voice firm but calm. "And yet you showed me not because of weakness, but because you wanted to know if I would run?" Her masked face tilted slightly, the silence stretching. At last she turned and walked toward the door, her voice sharper. "Follow, your choice is not finished. The bond cannot remain untested if you are truly tied to me. You must face the council." They walked through long corridors lit by pale flames, the air heavy with whispers from unseen mouths. At last, they entered a wide chamber where nobles and elders waited, seated in a great circle, the Council of Saria, the rulers behind the throne, the voices that kept the princess hidden. When Aaron entered, their eyes narrowed, some with disgust, others with fear. The eldest among them rose, his robes trailing, his staff glowing faintly. "This cannot be," he declared, his voice trembling with anger. "A human has touched the bond. A human has seen what must remain hidden. This is a crime." Aaron's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, the princess raised her hand. "It is no crime," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. "It is my will." The council erupted with whispers, fear and rage mixing like storm winds. One noble shouted, "Your Highness, you cannot mean to bind yourself to an outsider." "He will destroy us," another cried. "If he is bound to you, the curse will spread. It will poison him, it will poison us all." The princess stood tall, her mask gleaming. "The curse is mine alone," she answered, "and he is not broken." She turned her head slightly toward Aaron. "Yet the choice remains. If I accept him fully, he becomes my bonded for life. If I cast him away, the link will wither, but his mind may shatter. The bond does not forgive rejection." The chamber fell into silence. Every eye watching her, Aaron felt the weight of her words. Yet his voice was steady. "I came knowing there was no return. I will not beg, I will not kneel, but I will stand with you if you let me." Gasps filled the chamber. The nobles horrified by his boldness, the elder slammed his staff against the floor, sparks rising. "Princess, if you choose him, you condemn us all. Break the bond now before it is too late." The princess did not answer immediately. Inside, her heart raced, the bond burning like fire in her chest. Through it, she felt his presence, warm, unyielding, steady like stone. For years, she had known only fear, only silence, only the weight of being called cursed, but now, with this human's voice in her soul, she felt something she had almost forgotten: choice. She looked across the circle, her masked face unreadable, then she spoke, her words sharp and final. "No, I will not break it. I choose him." The council erupted, voices rising like a storm, some shouting warnings, others weeping in disbelief, but her words cut through their noise like a blade. "It is done, the bond is mine, and so is my decision." Aaron stood silent, watching her, his heart steady. He had not begged, he had not demanded, yet she had chosen. The princess lifted her hand, silencing the hall. "If he falls, I fall. If I am cursed, then let him share it. Better to walk with one who sees me than rule with a mask forever." The nobles fell into silence. Crushed by her words, the elder lowered his staff slowly, his eyes dark with fear. "Then the doom of Saria has begun," he whispered. But the princess ignored him, turning to Aaron, her masked gaze locked with his. "You spoke of truth, human. Now you are tied to it. Do you still stand?" Aaron's lips curved faintly, his voice firm. "Always." For a moment, the world felt still, the bond pulsing between them like a living flame. The council had been silenced, but not convinced outside the chamber. The city stirred with rumors. The princess had made her choice, and in doing so, she had broken tradition older than centuries. What would follow, peace or ruin, no one could yet know. But as the torches dimmed and the hall grew cold, one truth stood clear. The princess was no longer alone behind her mask. and the human had become part of her fate for better or for worse.